This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this, the 3rd of February, 2019. Welcome, everybody, to the next month. How are you doing? Unlike what the intro said, because that is not exactly true, Ken is not joining us today because he and Kitten Features are off exploring and adventuring today. But that is totally all right, since instead we are joined today by our good friend the Wasiks, both John and Beck, as we are here to talk about books and writing and things like that, as well as our general geekery that we always do. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
All righty, so to go ahead and get things kicked off, we're going to jump in with and start off with
Dysfunctional Deviations.
And in today's Dysfunctional Deviations, I am going to talk about what mostly I've been doing in this last week. As per what's been, I guess, the last month for me, I have been running around like a proper fool. Barely at home, barely time to see what's been going on in Denver. In this case, I took off again to head out to Orlando for a few days this last week. And primarily because I had a wonderful opportunity. A friend of mine out there, and one we've interviewed before on the show, Take a Chance Cosplay. She and her father had gotten an opportunity to buy tickets to the, the traveling troupe for Hamilton that has been traveling around the United States, since I was unfortunately unable to acquire tickets when they came through Denver. As much as I tried, and I refused to pay what people were trying to second sell them for, up in the range of $1,000 a seat. Yeah, especially when original list price for some seats were as low as $100 and something. And
Yeah.
I mean, they did go up to like $600 something for the premium best seats. But regardless, I was like, that's a bit much as I wanted to see Hamilton. Well, they had called me up after I had already started getting bookings together for doing things this last month, where I had gone to Barbados for a week or so with my brother. And so when they'd asked me, like, hey, are you doing anything in January? I was kind of like, well, yes, but when? They're like, oh, the end of the month. Aha! Well, that I have opportunity. And so they let me know that they had acquired actually multiple tickets to go see Hamilton on different days and different locations. They essentially went in for tickets at every one of the venues in Florida that the troupe is going to. And so I know they were going, initially was it Tampa, then Orlando, and then they're going somewhere else after Orlando. But I forget where. And so Act Out Games and not Act Out, Take a Chance. Take a Chance. I was just watching videos earlier of Act Out Games, and so that also was in my mind. But so Take a Chance also, basically they called me up and said, hey, if you want to come out, we've got an extra ticket for you. And so I absolutely said that's worth it, booked a plane, flew out, and got the opportunity to go check out Hamilton down in Orlando at, I forget the name of the center there. It was one of the, it has two names, one of it being one of the Disney type theaters, but also another name to it. But, and I will walk through a little bit, hopefully not to bore everybody, but a little bit of my adventure out there as I'll show some photos, if that's all right for all.
Got to show off your cosplay again.
Well, and that's one of the nice things, right, is not only did I get to go see a show that I really loved, but what better way than to go do it in costume?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to share a couple of the photos that I took while I was running around. And so you'll get some of the raw here of what I was doing, not just... I will flip through and we'll see what all comes through. But me in my Jefferson costume as we were getting ready to go out there, because flew in, I took the red eye to go out there and flew basically and tried to nap, but was busy at work, got home, finished up packing and doing things like that, and then was at the airport around 10 o'clock at night, just after, because my flight was at 12:45, I want to say. And so,
Yikes.
Yeah, truly a red eye. Got all that settled, though, because I wanted to be in Florida as much time as I could without affecting everything else going on. So got on the plane. Everything went fine. Got out there. Arrived in Orlando actually earlier than I expected. I thought I was supposed to get there at like 6:45. Ended up arriving. It was somewhere like 5:45, almost 6. A little earlier than I expected. And then worked out there. I was trying to spend the morning going and do some martial arts things since we have a lot of practitioners out there for what I do. Unfortunately, who I was going to go do lessons with got busy. So I made my way over to the hotel that we would be staying at, partly getting to do my own little, this is going to sound so sad by comparison today, but Wayne's first adventures on Uber, essentially, to get
I have
around.
yet to do it.
So that's the thing. I have ridden Ubers that others had done. This is probably my first, maybe one other time where we kind of did it, but kind of my first time on my own. Let's go do it. However, when looking at the prices for it and me getting in early, I was like, well, it's like a $30 Uber. It takes about a half hour to get to the airport, or from the airport to the hotel. So I was kind of like, meh, I'm cheap. What else is available? And taxis were like 60 and this. And I was like, this is dumb. So then I looked and said, well, what about like public transport? And so I looked through and yay for Google Maps and doing if I were to try to get to this location from where I am currently and wanted to take public transportation, how much would it cost me? How long would it take? And where would I go? Because it's all right there. Mm-hmm. I was like, you can get there in about an hour and 10 minutes for $2 on the bus.
Holy sh!
And I was like, who's up for an adventure? At which point, because I had never been in, MIO essentially in the Orlando airport. And so I had to wander about to find, like, where do buses actually show up? Finally found the right route, found a bus sitting there, talked to the guys, like, yep. And the challenge was, though, I didn't have any cash. You know, this day and age and this and that. Unfortunately, public transport, other than if you have actual bus pass cards and stuff like that, still pretty much require cash, don't have just a swipe and go credit card solution, as far as I'm aware.
Well, dang.
I'm hoping they'll get there, right?
Square,
to the point of like,
Square.
Right? Or even like the Apple Pay, right? Let me just click my thing and do the like touch thing. But so I actually went back into the airport, found a food court and bought like a cookie from McDonald's or something. I found an ATM first, got some cash, and then I had to get it down to like single bills, right? And so I had to go buy like a cookie to do that. Eventually, though, got on the bus. Sure enough, 2 hours later, or not 2 hours, just over an hour, I guess. An hour on the bus and then like a 15-minute walk with my luggage. And I'm at the hotel. So that was wonderful. Then talked to Take a Chance and her father, and they were going to spend the time. He has an office there that he does work just down the road. And so instead of me just sitting at the hotel the whole time, I basically Ubered over there. That's where I did my first Uber. Got over there, and we hung out for the day in one of the conference rooms, just catching up, basically. While her father was working, Take a Chance and another friend of hers that we were all going to go Hamilton together basically hung out, just catching up, having fun, which is a good time. But then went from there directly, got checked into the hotel and basically started getting ready right away to go to the show. The show was at like 8 o'clock in the evening. So I got dressed up. We all did. So, and you'll see a picture of us all in there. They had the lit board out front that kind of changed to showing the Hamilton, of course. So this is our squad that we had in there as we were going through. Myself, and then next to me is Take a Chance and her friend, and then her father at the end. And so he was dressed as Washington, and they were dressed as Alexander and Eliza to be in the, so, and what was nice is we got in the door, and her father had a hoot because they had gone in the previous show together dressed and got a lot of attention. This time, we didn't make it past basically the doorway getting in past security and ticket check before people asked for photos with us. And we basically took, and he was taking, like counting in general, and gave up at about 60 times that people wanted pictures of us.
Nice.
But we started getting just a couple pictures. And shortly after we'd started, the people running things were like, could you please at least make a little more room from the entrance? We're like, oh yeah, no problem. People stopped us real quick. All right, yeah, so we backed off a little ways. But then a line formed for like a solid 20 minutes. We had a line of people wanting to come get pictures with us.
Did they realize you weren't the actual cast?
So,
oh no. Oh no.
Entertaining note about And something that I take for granted. So that was a lot of fun, us taking some shots. Another gal, one of the only other gals that we had came and addressed there. Lovely young redhead that was there as well. Got pictures with before we got into the venue itself. But walking around through and getting our little swag and stuff like that, going and getting some memorabilia things, and even having pictures taken with us, it was entertaining to realize apparently not everybody is as much of a fanatic fan of Hamilton as maybe some of us, in the sense that we definitely understood there were a lot of people who had never sought out the look of Hamilton and the costumes from it. Maybe had heard the soundtrack, knew it was a phenomenal thing, but didn't really know what the costumes looked like. So we had a lot of people ask us who we were, who we were representing, and told them. And as well as a lot of people who did, and we would hear a lot of it as side comments and little things, think we were from the show. There were quite a few who were like, oh my gosh, is the cast out here walking around? And we're just like, no. And it's funny too, especially with the gals, because they're younger. It was like, do you not see the youth here to think that we're, what?
The facial hair?
The drawn on facial hair that Take a Chance has. And so it was entertaining, definitely, to have those responses coming around and just kind of realize, because that was the thing that would get me where in a way I was kind of like, what? But at the same time to stop and like, okay, Wayne, maybe not everyone spent the last 2 months again trying to listen to the soundtrack almost exclusively to learn the lyrics as best you can and to truly pick apart the story and know how it goes and the pacing of the scenes and which, cast members play multiple parts based on first and second act, and maybe not everyone else who is coming to see this show has done that level of effort. What's that like? And so there was a bit of just me having to go okay, maybe I'm different. But with that...
Different is good.
And so, it was hilarious. But then we had pretty nice seats. It was partway up on the second balcony or such. Beautiful view of the stage. And my crew all there... ready to watch. And even then, people behind in front of us not knowing what costumes we were in or what we were for. I was playing around. We had some nice, elegant... One of the things that her father provided was some glasses to actually look through and kind of get better view of the stage. He brought some regular opera glasses that were really fancy, and he actually gifted them. I have it up in my bag, the one because it completely matches my outfit. Like me looking as magnificent as I could up there, where looking through oh, look at that. It's wonderful. It's quite nice. So looking through the lenses of that, but then her father had also brought some really nice ones that you could, a couple sets of more modern that looked a little closer, and some big ones that you could get framed just cast member in your entire view, no stage, bam. Which is wonderful, because from a cosplayer's perspective...
All the details.
Yes, I did. I learned so much about my costume and all the things I need to adjust to make it even more accurate.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I learned so much. It's funny because some of the people were like, but you did it so perfect. I was like, no. And actually, her father was saying, but yours is so on point. I was like, nope. Buttons are all wrong on the actual coat. They're perfect on the undergarment, the vest and the pants. But the second act, or the second outfit that Jefferson wears in the second act when he comes out, first costume is the coat that I have, but it has different buttons. Same number, same locations, but they're slightly different button. 2 more buttons I need to do to add in the back at the tails, top of the tails where the pleat happens. And so there are a couple things I learned about that I took note, as well, the collar and stuff. And the collar, the end of my collar, the points need to be a little more sharp, and just things, right? As well as I learned that the buttons I do have are accurate for, again, the vest, the pants, and the second coat he wears, which is also the rest of the velvet that's same as the undergarment, saying it's all velvet. And I was like, aha! So I learned a lot. Afterwards, great show. Loved the show. After, almost second act, once Philip passes, I think most of our us in watching it were a little more ready for tears and such, as we were both just happy with it all and seeing it take place. It also makes so much more sense to see it live, how certain parts are played out, for why it's significant the way it is versus the parts you hear. It was really neat.
That's why I want to show him Wicked.
Gotcha.
They're making a movie of that, though, aren't they?
Actually, what did I do wrong? Oh, thank you.
Oops.
Oh, so the challenge is I'd set it up to show, but didn't actually share. So I will do a quick recap on the photos. Thank you, Copy, for holding me honest. But yeah, so a picture of me, the troll board, our group.
Yeah.
Like I said, lovely redhead. And again, these are all shots. One of the challenges also of giving up my phone to others to take photos versus me taking photos.
They take weird shots.
Well, they take lots, but man, they're framing. They're framing.
Right?
I'm not good at that.
Oh my gosh. People that take pictures and it's like they have the person in just the bottom half and then all this open space up on top. I'm like, yeah, sure, my head is in the center, but that's not the focus.
Yes, look at everything else that's here. Yeah, so you give up a certain bit when you do that with others. So anyhow, here's the crew, and I was talking about the lenses last piece. So afterwards, what was really cool, and this is, yes, thank you, Copy. As I said, the stage, definitely take a look at that because it was beautifully set up. It's exactly what you expect from anyone who's seen any of the Hamilton stuff. They travel well with it.
Do they have a movie of this play?
Not yet, and I'll talk about towards the end. Other thing I learned leaving is that, and thankfully to Take a Chance and her father, they had done this prior where they went and found the proper door where the cast comes out after the show to sign autographs and interact with people real quick. Challenge was us leaving. Well, beforehand, we actually checked with people there to say which door is it, because the previous venue when they were in Tampa or wherever they were at prior, they couldn't find it till later, and a lot of the cast had already left. So this time we checked ahead of time. That door, right there, got it. Because our goal is to go, and they have a poster essentially of a bunch of signatures of all the cast that they've gotten so far. So we went out and we found the line, got in there, and everybody in the line, they loved our outfits. So this is actually Washington with Washington that we have, because the Washington and King George is hiding over his shoulder. Is what you see in the back there. That's King George like peeking in. And as he jumped in, it's unfortunate because her father was starting to look away at the next camera as George jumped in. Then Take a Chance with one of the Schuyler sisters and myself just looking back. So I don't have all the pictures on there. Some are on my Facebook and such where her father took a lot of the photos as well with their cameras. And so we've kind of shared photos between. Because I also got a picture with Jefferson looking at my costume and me kind of commenting like, it's the best I could do with, photos I have found. And he looked at it like, that's pretty damn close. Good job, as the guy who wears the costume every night.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah, that's
Those
right.
are the best
Look
praises.
at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
No, I did feel really good about that. Other things after Hamilton and such. So the final piece on that was that while there isn't a movie yet, there's been rumor that they may make one of at some time. And Take a Chance was very quick to say, Wayne, if ever one does happen, come premiere night, you're going to be here with us at whichever theater we're going to. Because they do a lot of that for all the Marvel stuff. Because Take a Chance does charity group things. And dresses as Rogue, dresses as Negasonic Teenage... Warhead, thank you. And I'm trying to think, Scarlet Witch, a couple others. So Gamora, a bunch of them, Marvel cast. So she has a bunch of costumes from that. And goes to a bunch of those premieres for different movies in support and to raise money for charity and such. So she was like, if Hamilton ever hits as a actual theater production, guess what? We all go into the intro. I was like, done, there,
Nice.
Happily. The next couple days I spent there, the other thing I did is Take a Chance and her father have season passes essentially to Universal parks. And so we spent the next 2 days exploring Universal. And I'd been to each of the parks prior, but it had been years.
We were just there for a honeymoon.
Please tell me the weather was better than when we went.
Right.
So for me, it was great because coming from not being here in Colorado, where it was,
Snowing.
teens and 20s and such, it was 50s and 60s the whole time I was there. So for me, it was wonderful.
I think we
Whereas
did wrong.
Take a Chance was like bundled in so many layers, I didn't, she didn't know what to do, and complaining constantly about the cold. I was like, this is great. What are you talking about?
That's like when we first moved from Wisconsin to New Mexico. My parents and I were in Sam's Club in shorts and a T-shirt Thanksgiving week, and everyone else is bundled up in winter jackets looking at us like we're nuts.
And that's something that absolutely happened. Now, granted, because it's theme park, there's a lot of variety, but definitely running around with Take a Chance and such, it was kind of a, like, she just kept looking at me like, you're dumb. I don't know what you're thinking. But so we ran around Universal, And I got to take her perspective of things because she's a regular. You know, having passes, she goes constantly, which was also interesting because there were things she didn't want to wait for, like lines and stuff. And if we saw a line that was more than like 30 minutes or more wait, she was like, ugh, let's go somewhere else. This is terrible. It's like 30 minutes. That's nothing. I'm used to waiting like Disney lines for 2 hours.
Right.
Right?
Oh my God.
So that,
Indy.
well, plus she has all the like the go-tos of how to get in like the single rider lines, things like that, just to make the most efficient thing that you can do, right? And so we went through, got to see new rides for me. Like the Transformers ride was new to me. I hadn't seen that one since I had previous been. Well, because last time I'd gone, they still had Twister, the original King Kong ride, Jaws, all of the old Universal rides that are now completely gone.
Yeah, we didn't see those.
No, those have completely been replaced. So we took a couple shots there. We saw, she really loved the Animal Show, went and saw that.
Is that what that is?
That's from the Animal Show, and she knows a lot of the like trainers, names of animals, things like that, the puppers and stuff. She's a big fan of dogs and things, and so took me through that one. That was fun. We went into a nice, and I spent a little bit more money on the Park Hopper Pass because it allowed me to ride the Hogwarts Express.
That's what we did. Yep.
Yeah, because the previous time I'd been, they had just finished Hogsmeade, and Hogsmeade was thinking they were just starting construction on Diagon Alley. And so I had not ever seen any of those things, and so it was an opportunity for me to now check out both. So we blitzed in and got to do the ride for, got to do Hogwarts, the main magic ride there, as well as then travel over and head our way that same day over on the Express and do Gringotts. And so checked out Gringotts, which was fun, although I have to say, and this is maybe just my own opinion, but I believe they put all of their effort into Hogwarts when it comes to the line experience and like the story being told and how you're going through and following the cast and how they have so many of the moving photo or portraits and stuff like that you get to view, just so much things to look at. Where in Gringotts, I really didn't feel like they had much. Like it looked cool. The part. Yeah, it looked the cool. part, which was great. I did like the little elevator sign where it said, you're going deep, deeper, extremely deep, extraordinarily deep, even deeper again, bottom. For levels and stuff. I thought that was...
I don't even remember.
Very fun.
Being in line.
Well, and so the nice thing,
the line was short.
Most of the lines I did this time were so short, it didn't really matter. I wouldn't have gotten the full experience. But I do recall the first time when I went to the Hogwarts ride, it was a long line. I was in line for a couple hours, but it wasn't terrible. Outside was a little meh, where you had like the Mandrake route and stuff like that. But once you went inside the castle, it was wonderful. That line experience is phenomenal.
Well, I remember, so we went 2 days as well when we were on our honeymoon, and the first day we had our backpacks, which don't go to Universal with a backpack. That's a mistake because their locker system is stupid. But aside from that, the line for Gringotts was insane. It said it was like a 2-hour wait. So we came back the next day, no backpacks, and for whatever reason, when we went to go do it, there was hardly any line.
As I say, the longest line I had was the first time taking Hogwarts One Direction was about a 50-minute wait. And that wasn't so bad, chatting with everyone, so we're fine. Beyond that, I think we had one ride that was like 40 or something, which might have been Minions, I think, maybe.
Did we do that one?
Because it was one of the newer ones I hadn't done. And so did that. But the Hogwarts Express is fun. If you ever go, it is its own experience along with the park. It's nothing crazy, but it is kind of fun. And it definitely ties into the lore and everything else as well, which is a lot of fun.
I'd love to go with a group of people in Hogwarts costumes for that.
Well, and so we were doing stealth. I was wearing Slytherin shirt kind of thing first day. And the second day I was wearing my, Obliviator shirt and such, where and there were a lot of people at the park, which I have to say, Universal absolutely has benefited from taking on the Wizards magicking world of Harry Potter, because we saw more people in wizards robes, wands, things like that throughout both parks than any other thing, right? And so it is definitely one of the most popular parts of the park. And you could tell by where everybody was hanging out. But it was a good time. That was a lot of fun. It has the effect, the look. They do a good job of kind of bringing you into the feel of it. And so that was a lot of fun.
The music, the dragon,
everything in there. And then us in the Express and going back over to Hogsmeade the next day, which is always fun because of it. And actually, the snow and the gray skies we had there made it work really well. I got to see a laser light show that night that they've added to the castle that I hadn't seen prior. That was kind of fun. Little thing that kind of traces all the castle and stuff with the different houses, their colors and into their symbols and crests for each house, which is really neat. Worth seeing. Did Ollivanders, things like that as well. I was trying to take a shot inside. Which ride was this? It was the Skull Island Kong ride that they've now added. So they got rid of the original King Kong.
Oh, yeah.
And they've now added Skull Island, which is right next to Jurassic Park in Islands of Adventure.
Yeah, when we did that, someone was recording the whole time, so it ruined the effect.
Oh.
Because it was bright glare. They didn't even bother to turn down the brightness of their
With
cell
a light
phone.
or something.
And like everyone was
gotcha.
yelling at them too, and they were just ignoring it.
Oh, that's so dumb.
And it's like, that's not going to turn out because it's a 3D experience.
Yeah, you're never going to see that. You're never going to see any of that. Well, so
they're sitting there with their glasses on and the camera out. I'm like, this is not going to work, my friend.
That's annoying. That is really annoying. No, thankfully we didn't have any of that. What I did like was this had one of the other better line experiences for something that's not a bunch of animatronics and stuff like that. Because it was one of the truly creepy, like, dark lines going into it. And they have a piece where somebody jumps out. And he got me, because I was walking along. It was because there was so little of a line. We went through the majority of this dark thing fast. It makes sense as dark it is when there's a line, because then you're just shuffling along, no big deal. I had my hands out in front of me because it was so dark I was afraid I was going to run into something. And then he got me because it was in one of these areas, nothing else around. The guy jumps from the side like a haunted house. I was just like, yep, that's a thing. You got me.
I don't remember that at all, but we also had the speedy pass, so we might have just
you might have bypassed all of that,
yeah.
Because there are a couple lines around. Also, that second day, went back, did Ollivanders, which is always fun.
It was too crowded when we were there. We didn't really get to look at the wand shop very well because it was like...
Oh, it was crowded, and thankfully I've seen it before, so I just kind of did the experience and out. I love the look of Diagon Alley. That's fun. I never got to see him blow fire.
Beautiful.
Oh, really?
No, I never got to see fire. That place was packed while I was there. But the thing I really did like was getting to Nocturne Alley. That was awesome to me.
And I don't think they like pointed out.
No,
you gotta look for
it is a back alley.
We stumbled on it by accident. We're like, where are we?
And it is so good because the shop back there is so much like all of the Slytherin wear and stuff like that and skulls and things. It was so good. That was just looking at that like, all right, it felt special. And because it's kind of off the beaten path, not nearly the crowd.
Right.
So it did feel like this nice back little, dangerous area of the whole part. That I really enjoyed.
Hondo was asking if you got a wand.
I did not. I have printed a wand in the past, and I failed to bring it with me. But also, I refuse to pay the prices they have for wands.
I just make our own for like 20 cents.
Well, that's the thing, right? There's so many opportunities and options of what you can do with a wand. I don't need a famous wand. So the one other thing that I was really proud of myself for doing is went and saw Shaggy and Scooby while we were there. And I asked them, because I didn't get pictures with a whole lot of cast, although I do have to get a video back from Take a Chance, because she set me up multiple times since she goes there regularly. One of the first ones is as we were walking over to go do the Mummy ride, which I enjoyed and have done. She kind of had us hanging out and saw a stage put out there and said, oh, hey, it looks like Marilyn's about to come out and do her little show on the street. I was like, oh, that's cool. She's like, you want to stay and watch? I was like, sure, I don't care. So they set up the little barricades, kind of like where it's going to happen. There's just a little stage thing. They bring out a little director's chair and a little umbrella kind of thing. And the guy who's playing the director comes out and kind of says like, oh, so is there anybody that hasn't ever been here before? So the first time, and Take a Chance looked at me and was like, this guy, right? And kind of talked. And it was early enough. He was just like, cool, okay. Kind of waiting, and people still meandering and things hadn't started yet. And then as it was actually getting ready to get started and people started to kind of mill about, came back up and said, oh, hey, so it looks like the leading guy that's supposed to be working with Maryland Day kind of canceled, so we need some help. Hey, you! And reaches out to me and pulls me forward. We're going to have you help out. I kind of looked at Take a Chance like, I see what you did. The biggest, shit-eating grin traveling across her face. I was like, I see what you're doing. She tried to get me a few more times, and at least when I was like, nah, you ain't doing that to me. She tried to get me to participate in the Fear Factor Live.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly, right? I was just like, not for me.
There's certain challenges I'd probably want to do, but anything involving bugs, nope.
So, okay, the main on stage one, which is all like the hold on for dear life and height things, I could have done.
Yeah.
Challenge of walking around for 3 days almost and stuff. My knee was not happy, and so I thought probably not the best thing to do. But so there's a video that she took of me out there participating with Marilyn. And the challenge I had is, she spotlighted me. I was kind of like, oh, I see. But once I was there, the ham kind of came out where I was like, all right, I'm doing this. And the biggest challenge I had is they said, like, Marilyn will lead you through everything. But one of the parts of it is they get you into a dance with her, and she leads herself into a little turn. And I had to fight every one of my instincts to actually grab her and lead her through a dance. Because the music's going and everything, and she started to turn. I was like, oh, I can just grab hold and like pull back and spin you the other way. I was like, stop, not what's happening here. But that was entertaining. And afterwards, she actually kind of whispered on the side. She's like, so do you dance? I was like, maybe a bit. She got that. I think she got the feel, the indication that I really wanted to do more than just like participate for the look. Because the music, I was like, oh, I'll swing you around right now. Let's go. But I was like, stop it.
Stop it.
Yeah, so she tried, Take a Chance tried a few other times to get me hooked up. Got us on the Fear Factor piece, but just to shoot balls at one of the contestants. And we were front row because we were participating and did get to watch where they did the Eat Challenge with some of the other guests. And I will admit, I reacted poorly when it was in front of me. Because I'm right there, and they blended the bugs up with sour milk, with...
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's one thing to hear it all and get that little bit of like... It's another thing to watch them start consuming it. And I had to look away because I felt myself going... What? I was like, this will be even worse if, as an audience member, I throw up than the ones who are doing it not. And I was just like, oh no. Nope, not for me. But the one thing I did when it came through... Yeah, exactly. No, I feel your pain. So when we did it, like I said, I got a picture like Betty Boop, Marilyn Monroe, a couple of others. Got pictures of Take a Chance with Beetlejuice because that's her favorite. But because of the current meme going around about Shaggy God, I made a point of when I saw the whole team out there, and actually it's funny because, was it Fred, Velma, and... Oh gosh, what's her name?
Daphne,
yes. Thank you. Had left. They all went back in, and Scooby and Shaggy came back out, just the two of them. I was like, this is perfect. So I got in line to go with them, and I told them, I was like, when we do this, I just need you to give like a power pose or something. What I wanted Shaggy to do is just like hold a hand out in front of him, like containing power or such. The actor was very confused. They both like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you mean. It's like, just trust me on this. And so we did several shots of basically me like afraid of their power and Take a Chance kind of bowing down to the Shaggy God. And they just jumped around in poses, but they really didn't know what was going on. And then they talked about things. He was playing the part of Shaggy and everything. But it was one of those where it was like serious shot and everything. It was like fine. But I wanted to at least meme one of like, look, I have found Shaggy God. I thought that was totally appropriate for the time. Like I said, Fear Factor was fun. She got to see Beetlejuice. I think that's pretty much the end of it. The horror side of it, because they do a horror night thing every year, and I forget the name of him. It's either Chance the Clown or such, but one of the costumes we want to do. I think that might have been it for what we have on here for the shots I took while on my trip. So there, shared. Everybody see them? Happy?
Rapid fire.
Yes, as I had gone through, at least to give some context to it, the story. But the whole time, like I said, Florida was fun, good times, a bit of adventure. Neat to see a park from the perspective of what I consider insiders of people who go all the time. Like, where do you guys go eat? Which way do you get around and do this and stuff like that? Because I love doing that. I can go just do the touristy thing anytime. But I like to kind of get the, here's how we do this. Even from them, it was entering the park, going through the city walk, where if they're going to one of the parks versus the other, they will cut through one of the stores, Billabong or something like that, because it cuts off this whole corner that you otherwise have to navigate around to get to the thing, and it's a much faster route. So like, yep, this is the way we go, da-da-da, things like that. Places they eat, all of those things. And so that was a fun aspect of the trip. And so I am back. I've had much fun. And back to reality and trying to get into all the things I need to do to be responsible again. So we'll see.
Oh, darn. Adulting.
Yeah, that thing. So that is me catching up with all the stuff I haven't been doing of late. So that's fun. Anyhow. But you guys, like you said, you went for your honeymoon and such and did the whole Universal thing. What were some of the highlights for you?
Disney.
Or Disney.
Disney.
Unfortunately, Orlando. Yeah, Universal Orlando was not a great experience for us.
Except for Harry Potter.
But it pissed me off because we went in, tried to get our tickets printed, and the machine wasn't working, so we had to go to the kiosk guy to get them printed. And I was like, so I heard this thing about Disney's Fast Pass thing, and he's
Express.
like, oh yeah, okay, I got you. Charges my card for it, and then I find out he charged me for the most expensive one without telling me that there was a difference.
Yeah.
So when I asked the lady the next day, I was like, so we want to do that Fast Pass thing again, but we want the least expensive one because we're only going to go on the rides once. We don't have time to do the rides multiple times. I thought maybe she would at least give us a little bit of a discount since I spent so much the day before. And she's like, oh, don't worry, we've gotten you taken care of. She got me to the front of the line. That was all she did.
Oh.
So it's like our experience was horrible. We tried to go on Jurassic Park, and when we got to the line, the guy was turning everyone away. Sorry, we can't let anyone on our outside rides right now because of weather. And I stopped him like,
what weather? There was
what
no rain
weather? There's not a cloud in the sky right now. What are you talking about? So we were like, okay, well, we're starting to get hungry, so we'll go to this food spot that overlooks the ride. As soon as we get inside, I see one of the things come down with people on it.
Yeah.
They had already opened up the ride again. I was like, you assholes. It was just a bad experience overall for Universal.
Gotcha.
Disney, on the other hand.
Disney was good.
I love Disney. I've always loved
the
Disney,
rain.
though.
I mean,
Well, and
our first day at Disney was good weather-wise. Every day
it was
since
hot.
then it was rainy, but it still was fun.
Well, and there are aspects, right? Because I know for me, when I go to Disney, I have such a nostalgic past with Disney things in general,
Same.
so, and I tend to enjoy them. And I understood, talking to Take a Chance on Her Father about their reasonings for getting Universal passes versus Disney, is that the Universal passes were less than half for a season pass for all the park stuff than it was for Disney.
Which is crazy
Jeez.
because the price for the Universal Day passes were way more expensive than Disney World. So I was like, huh.
It goes back, well, and it depends. Well, it also depends if you do a park hopper and all the things. There's so many ways to spend money in the process.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I remember actually spending one of the nights that we were cooped up in our hotel room on our honeymoon. Because it was raining so much. And I'm like, out of curiosity, how much does the tickets cost per ride at each of the parks?
You did per ride and per square footage.
Per ride and per square footage of Disney versus Universal, and Disney was cheaper on every single round versus Universal.
By a lot.
I mean, I can see, because now, granted, my comparison that I would love to, I am much more the California boy, in the sense that I like how in both representations for Universal and Disney in California, it's much denser, meaning they don't have as much just land to make you walk across. You don't have to go very far in either location to go see events, to go to the attractions. And I'm a big fan of that. And so for me, I will always be a fan of Disneyland over Disney World because everything's there, plus Small World has a castle versus being in a bunker. But all kinds of little things.
I didn't even make him go on Small World, so we didn't even see that one.
So, but yeah, and there's things to it. And so it was nice for me because I've done a lot of Disney, that this kind of inside look for me for Universal was a good time. And I got to see all of the new rides that they'd had since the previous time I've been, which is a lot of fun. And it's interesting because the 4D, 3D type interactive rides, there are some I think better than others, and even some of the newer ones which I didn't like as much as some of the older. Like one of my favorite ones is still Spider-Man.
That was interesting.
The Spider-Man ride there I quite enjoy because I like how they combine the practical effects with the screens, similar to like what Harry Potter has to a degree. Where King Kong, like the new Skull Island, was mostly screens, but they did it in a way where the screens are so big
you don't see
that
screen.
It's neat how they do it, and that was kind of fun. Whereas, what was one of the ones that was kind of intermediate? There was at least one that was kind of like Minions was fun, enough, and it was all right. But there was another one that we went on. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was a newer one. It might have been Transformers even, where I was a little kind of like, overall. I was hoping they would have done a few more effects in there, like practical effects to go with the screens. I mean, it was still fun.
It was pretty much the same, though. Like, a lot of those rides, like Transformers, Spider-Man, in a way, they're the same ride, just different visuals.
They're very similar in the experience you get. Where at least, like, one of the things I like about the Mummy ride is that it's still more coaster in the sense, or the way it moves has a bit of that.
We did that.
And actually, there was one, and I'm going to mess this up because I kept doing this between the two parks. It's There's Ripsaw Falls, which is the one I didn't go on this time. And then there's the newer one, which is the roller coaster, which was like Rip something else.
Tide?
I'd have to look it up for sure. But
I don't know.
That one was actually really slick because it's a really long coaster. And it's one that that strap it in on it. It's this big belt that comes across you kind of thing, this thing that latches over your torso and really locks you in. Because when you start off, you're going up straight vertical incline, and you're laying back in the chair such that you actually would slide out of the top of the chair if you didn't have the way that it is. But what's really cool about that ride, that, again, take a chance telling me all about it, couple things. One, saying, here's where the camera is on each ride, right? So I could purposely do the like, woo, to the camera. But also in that ride, the roller coaster, it has you pick a soundtrack to start with. And so it has a list of genres and specific songs you can play, and it'll play that song as you're on the coaster for you. Each individual person gets it. So it has a little screen in front of you, and you pick your music, and you go, and it's like, bam. And so for me, I did like, Black Eyed Peas Pump It or something like that. And it just, I was dancing throughout the ride. It was good fun.
Wonder if they had Black Betty.
And so, well, they had several rock, they had some EDM, they had all this, a good variety in there. And so that one was actually a lot of fun in that sense. And at the end, not only can you get the picture of you there, but for however much, they'll also do a music video of you on the ride.
Oh, wow.
Where they play some of the soundtrack with you, as well as some of the clips of you at key moments on the ride. Because each one of the seats has a camera facing you for the whole experience.
Nice.
That one was actually a lot of fun.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Did you go on the Shrek theater?
Not this time. I've done it before, but I didn't do it this round.
Because when we did it, when we were like, I don't know if it was like where we were sitting.
It was always out of focus.
All the images were screwed up.
Yikes.
So we did not like enjoy that at all. We couldn't even tell what was supposed to be happening, who was supposed to be in the front, who was in the back.
That would be bad.
And I was like, is it because we were like towards the back and on the side that... And it's like only the people in the middle of the theater that actually get the full experience or something?
See, that'd be interesting because I didn't go on that this time because I'd done it in the past, but on Minions, we were very much on the front but on the right. And it took a moment of me kind of picking where to look more at because there was a little bit, it's curved screen, but a little bit on the angle for how much you get. So the stuff right here was a bit too close and kind of off for sizing, where the rest of it looked fairly good.
I had that issue on Minions because we were probably kind of in a similar situation for Minions. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just my eyes because my eyes are a little bit screwy. But on Shrek, I was like,
no, I think
nothing was working. I tried taking my glasses off, putting on just the 3D glasses, putting them both on, switching which is in front, which is in back, and nothing worked.
Oh gosh, no. Thankfully, I hadn't had that experience. That would have been frustrating, to say the least. I would have been pretty annoyed by that one. No, I didn't have that going on. Mine was pretty straightforward. It all kind of worked for the rides I did. So it's interesting. And it's funny, too, because you're right. Universal was not inexpensive. I paid a lot for the 2 days and 2 park hoppers, to the point where even Take a Chance father had said that, I wasn't far off from a season pass.
Oh, jeez.
But in a way, I think he said, and if it's true, it might be worthwhile if I go out there again, that they remember. And so if you have your original ticket, you can always upgrade it. And so I could pay the little bit much extra and become a pass holder, perhaps. So we'll see if I have the opportunity to go out there again this year for some reason.
Another question for you, though.
Yes, sir.
So I know you say you've been to Disney World before, right?
Yes.
Recent or no?
No, Disney World's been a while. I went there. So I've done Epcot more recent, and Epcot several times. I did Disney World once when I was, this would have been 13 years ago or so.
Oh, my.
Where we did all the parks, because we did all the parks at that one. And that time, did Animal Kingdom. My favorite thing there was Bug's Life. That experience was fun. Because I like the blending of animatronics along with some of the screen effects and things like that, and all the practical stuff, and the equivalent to the Indiana Jones ride on that one, Animal Kingdom.
The dinosaur ride.
Yeah. Those are the two I recall specifically from it, because I know the safari ride where you see the actual animal stuff was like me. Yeah. I mean, cool truck.
I liked it.
When
we were going through it, and he's like, "Are these animatronics?" And I was like, "No, sweetie, these ones are real."
Well, but when everything else in the experience you get, I can understand not knowing, But that's also the challenge of that ride, because when we went, we only saw a handful of animals that were actually out and doing anything during that time. It just depends, right? It depends on whether you're lucky or not.
Now, the reason I brought that up, though, so you haven't seen the Avatar land that they made?
No, have not seen Avatar land.
Worth going to, especially, and it's a long line, probably even still. But the Flight of Passage.
Yeah, Flight of Passage.
That was an incredible experience. I wish I'd taken Dramamine before, but you get up on this what looks like a motorcycle thing.
Okay,
and you're in a long line of them. There's a big group of you. What I didn't realize at first until the flight started was this thing moves, so it feels like you can feel the creature breathing
the Banshee is actually underneath you.
Okay, so it does feel like you're actually riding one.
And the experience, it was probably the best experience with the 4D effects, the wind, the spray when you go through like a waterfall and all that. And it was so realistic. And then we were watching How to Train Your Dragon last night, and I'm like, I want that ride for How to Train Your Dragon. Because that would be so incredible.
Who
I
owns
love
it?
that. DreamWorks.
DreamWorks?
But I don't know if it was in association with Universal, so I don't know if Universal would be able to pick it up.
Who could actually do it? That would be fun. Because when it comes to amusement parks and rides and stuff, there's a few things coming out. We're still waiting for Star Wars Land to hit its key, right? That should be fun. There's rumors and stuff talking about a beginning of a Nintendo Land being built somewhere and such.
I heard about that, yeah.
I think somewhere there's actually supposed to be a How to Train Your Dragon Land, where it's a bunch of coasters and stuff. But it's like somewhere overseas, I forget where.
Well, I know there's a lot of different things overseas that I really would actually like to see, some of those parks. So it'd be fun to see what's coming up. Reasons to go back and explore different parks and stuff. And actually, when you mentioned like the water effects, stuff like that, that's one of the entertaining things that take a chance. I learned pretty quickly on all the 4D rides. Whenever they were going to spray something, she was so aware of that, she would always turn her head like away from it. And so I see her like glance over, like, we're about to get sprayed. And sure enough, boosh, then we get sprayed. It's like, so I caught on pretty quick to that. That was entertaining. So no, it was fun. It was a bit expensive. Would I have probably spent as much as I did if it was just me going to see it or something? Probably not. I probably would have condensed more of it to a day and just gotten blitzed on one day of it. But the opportunity to hang out, take a chance and go through the whole thing made it worth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that was worthwhile and fun. But no, it was a good trip, and I'm now back, and no more vacations for a while. And it's some of these reasons why I probably won't be, because I haven't done anything for it, be going to Katsu in another week, KatsuCon, which I would otherwise normally do. Probably will be avoiding and not hitting nearly as many conventions this year as I'd otherwise like to, because these things don't come free. I've got to still, pay for all these fun events I've done. So things like that. But anywho, so that's kind of a cap on everything I've been doing, what I've been up to.
We just need a Disney park here in Colorado. That way we don't have to travel anywhere else.
Yeah, come on, Disney, make it happen.
We have Elsa's Castle.
Yeah. I was trying to think, because unfortunately, the one time they tried to do something here in Colorado is when they worked with Elitch Gardens to make it a Six Flags.
Right,
and the nonsense that was, because trying to bring the Warner Brother IP into a fixed location on land with the Elitch Gardens where they couldn't expand it. So it was all the same rides with maybe one or two updates in there.
Yeah, like the Superman
ride. But we have all the land out towards DIA that they could plop
there's
down
the
resort hotel. And make
now that the Gaylord's out there,
expand.
and now that the stuff, there's probably a bunch of area they could easily do that and build a theme park here in the Rockies.
I hope they do.
Awesome.
Let's start a petition.
That would be interesting. I'm curious who would want to be out here. Because that could be this. There could be a location for it here. We have a good number of people.
You got Florida on one coast. You got Los Angeles on the other coast. We're in the middle. Come on.
We are centralized when it comes to many things. Now the challenge is, our purpose for existence is trade, right? We are here to be a distribution hub.
Yeah.
That's why Denver exists. Whereas
right by our house.
Well, whereas things like in Orlando, because of the temperature and stuff like that, is a destination resort for tourism. And so I don't know if we count as such. I mean, we have tourism, mountains, and doing the whole skiing and everything like that. I can absolutely see that. I'm wondering if, well, it's because like even when we had, what was the little park we had in the foothills that unfortunately closed down? Shoot.
I don't remember anything.
It had a good alpine slide. And beyond that, just some little rides into it and shops and things like that, because it was just a small little place, but it had been around for years and years and years.
I don't know.
I'd only gone once, and it was fun. But that I could see is more likely a good opportunity for a park here, because you're taking advantage of the mountains a little bit with the foothills. But logically, you'd want to put it close to the airport and all the travel there and stuff like that.
The airport, all the hotels that are already
being built up and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, yes, we're trying to do commerce decisions and planning, city planning and stuff for Denver, because we're selfish and want people to come here for more reasons, although we also don't want people to come here for more reasons.
Not unless they can build houses faster.
Well, we don't want more people to live here. You can come visit. Just don't live here.
Just stay by the airport.
We have that giant resort hotel that was just built, so there's...
No, the Gaylord's going to be an interesting location. That's where all the cons are going.
Really?
Oh, gosh. So
Good.
NDK is going, 2020?
I was hoping that.
There's a couple others that have been looking at that venue, and it's a beautiful venue. I've seen photos. I haven't gone there myself yet.
You have some friends working there.
Yeah, one of my friends works there as a chef, and she loves it.
No, it should be a great place, a great venue in general. So who knows? We'll see. But yeah, doesn't everybody want a theme park in their backyard?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so as we're getting close to a break here, I think I may jump the gun and go into that so that we can come back and talk a little bit more about books and things and stuff, and go there. Then we may finish up with some general geekery and such. But with that, as I prep for doing it, though, let me pick an appropriate song somewhere that I can throw into this. As we get ready to head to that, because we may actually talk a little bit more of geek cred in between. Has there anything you guys have been playing or doing such lately? What has your guys' gaming experience been of late?
Assassin's Creed and Minecraft. Always Minecraft.
So I know, you guys are
we're
still
always
continuing Minecraft. Last
we just happened upon a little island recently where we found a bunch of sea turtles, and all we were planning on doing was just mating the sea turtles so we could see babies for the first time.
Okay.
And I was like, while we're here, I'm going to build a little resort.
Nice.
Because it takes more than just a night for the babies to hatch.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just probably
Nice,
like
yeah.
a week in their world. So I was like, well, we're here waiting anyway, and we need supplies, and we need to eat, and we have to kill zombies and such, so we're using our health. I'm making a house.
So you now have a
Now we
place
have-
away and out from town.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure out a way to make a road out to the mainland near it, and then a dock so that we can take our boats across the ocean.
Nice.
It's fun.
But
though.
other than that, he's been playing the first Assassin's Creed, so I can watch, and it's good, but it's boring.
The first one is very boring, and I'm like trying to
So
rush
it's like
through it.
he's going through the towns, doing all the
Repetitive.
ledges and saving the citizens, and I'm just like on my phone. I'm like, tell me when you get to the actual plot in
Get to
this
story
city,
parts.
so I
Yeah.
can actually pay attention, because it's boring right now.
I can understand that. They had a lot of different activities you could do.
Repetitive activities
Yes.
in the first game.
Well, and I think all of the Assassin's Creed line has had some level of them, from acquiring pages to a journal and something, get more lore and things, to just your kind of repetitive quests, which I forget what you actually get from doing them. If it's a resourcing game or something like that, you can use on abilities or something else.
Starting with the second game, it was like you could unlock weapons or costumes, and then there's the
With the
one
flags.
if you solve the puzzles, which you don't have to do to resolve it in the second game, but if you solve all the puzzles, all 12 of them,
Okay.
you get this mind-blowing video, and I'm not spoiling it for anyone, that you're just like, oh, they're doing that in this series. Holy
Interesting.
crap.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's worth it. But the puzzles start out easy, but the last few I had to look up online. I couldn't
Gotcha.
solve the last puzzles.
As I say, because I've had a back and forth with Assassin's Creed as a whole as a game I've played, because I did play the first and played the heck out of it, played a lot of the second, and then from there on it kind of reduced, especially when they went like so many games, the numbered series ones.
Brotherhood and Revolution.
Yeah, all the side things that they do.
Although Brotherhood was still pretty good.
Well, I mean,
not as good as number
they've
2.
been solid for the most part as a whole for the games. And I started playing a lot of 3, but I didn't finish it. Although I like that one because the whole American history side of things I really was jazzed about. And I need to play Black Flag just because I've heard so much about it, and I own it like so many other titles. But I've enjoyed them. But like the most recent ones, I've had no desire. I'm too far away from the series now, I'd say, and so I haven't really paid attention.
Well, it's like I saw where they were going with the core story with the second one, and then in Brotherhood, and I could see where it needed to be resolved in the third one, though I never played the third one. So I'm like, how are you getting a fourth one? Have you not resolved the story yet? Because it's basically the end of the world if they don't resolve it. What's going on here? Where are you getting all these additional games? I don't know. Maybe there's good reason.
Well, and that was part of the piece that I had trouble with, is how they kept going back and forth with who is being focused on for each of the storylines and whether they're still using the technology the same way, and just how they kind of went through it was always interesting to me, because I loved how the world set up of actually reaching into essentially, I want to say racial, but genetic memories to experience things. I liked that because it allowed them a lot of freedom and the gameplay aspect. If you died, you just kind of start again on that memory and things like that. I like that a lot. All right. I have so many other thoughts and questions go into that, but I think, like I said, I want to take a break first, and then we'll come back. Maybe we'll do a little more geek cred, and then we'll get into the book after that, because I also want to probably bring up a little bit about Kingdom Hearts, at least to some point. All right, but with that, you're currently listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com, and we're going to take a break for just over 4 minutes, and I'm taking a chance here, playing a song from, I forget the name right here, Anik is what it's from, and I hope this song is appropriate because it's been a long time since we've read it, and this is one of the old ones that we've had in our archives for a while. So with that, we'll be back right after this, and see you guys shortly.
Send in your emails to showx at VtWProductions.com. You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Dun, dun.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. As we were talking offline here about upcoming events and things that were going to go on, but did want to bring up before we got too far into things, since I guess officially we are doing a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
A little bit of geek credit as we were talking about games here and such real quickly before we get into books and such that everyone need to experience. But one of the other things that's come out just in the last week that everybody has been going all crazy for has been the new Kingdom Hearts 3. And it's fun about this is I don't have much to say other than I had prepped myself to get ready to play it by watching all kinds of recap videos and stuff about the plot for it and things. But myself have not. You know, I played the first one little bits here and there and kind of remember getting stuck in the whale at one point and tried to restart it again, but haven't really spent much time on it. And so, pieces of that, but I thought I could probably pick it up and start playing it now if I wanted to based on watching all the videos and such. Have you guys played any of the Kingdom Hearts?
Nope.
I've played the first two. I never beat either of them.
So you touched them.
Yeah, I got pretty far in the first one, and then the second one, I just... It didn't hold my attention for whatever reason back then.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Okay, and Beck, you have not. You were like...
I've never really been a gamer. Usually I've watched other people play games if I do any gaming of the sort, but yeah, I usually kept to just my little Nintendo Game Boys.
And I was curious because...
and like just Tetris.
Well, part of it's because, of course, the fandom, how it crosses genre over from the Square Enix standard of Final Fantasy over to the Disney realm.
I was happy to see
when it comes to the different worlds and stuff like that and things and the storyline in that. And so that's where I think that crossover brought a lot of people into it. So I'm curious. I don't know if anybody out there who's listening live right now has played it yet. It has definitely caught the attention of most of the people I see on my social media when it comes to
my
posts and
coworkers
things.
Have been talking about calling into work the next day.
Well, and
so
I know people who took it took launch day off and played it for, tens of hours that first day. And it's interesting because I've definitely seen some of the posts coming out where people have finished the game. Well, I mean, most experiences are only so many tens of hours anyways, and if you drop 50 or 60 hours into a game first week, you might actually beat it or make a good progression through. And so I had a general curiosity, but at the same time letting fans know that I have not experienced it yet. And I saw a somewhat entertaining meme come through on social media about it being released on the Xbox platform for the first time. And starting to play, and someone who is an Xbox player kind of checking it and going like, oh, wow, okay, so what's going on? I'm not really following who these characters are. What's happening? Okay, no, well, I mean, this is the third one, so it makes sense that I maybe don't know what's going on. I should probably go back and check out 1 and 2. And when you look, you say, oh, it looks like they released they released a HD remix version or a compilation anthology that has all of the previous Kingdom Hearts on them leading up to it. Awesome, I'll go get that and play through it. Only to realize that was only released on PlayStation.
Oops.
The anthology as well, and that perfect opportunity for Squeenix to actually have gone out there and taken all of the previous in a render or in the HD remix of it and put them out also on Xbox as an opportunity to double your sales, right? To be able to go and have people who are excited for 3 based on everything and everyone they've seen talking about it to then go out and actually pull in people buying the original anthology. So I can play all of them in leading up to. But apparently that's not a thing. And so kind of the joke saying that Xbox players are still pretty much left high and dry. Yeah, you can play 3, but you better have played the others somewhere else, kind of thing. And there's some jokes in the meme where it's actually voices from the main characters, be it Goofy, Donald, and Sora, blasting a person for playing it on Xbox at all. Saying, oh no, are you kidding? Is someone playing us on Xbox? Kind of comments. But I saw that and kind of chuckled to myself about it, understanding where that came from. Because if I do pick it up, all I have is my Xbox One. And so it's kind of like, boom. Until you release it on PC, Squeenix, like you should.
Well, they're smart enough to do that with Resident Evil 2's remake.
Well, and this is me getting on a little bit of a soapbox saying that everything is just really a PC today anyway, so why not?
Yeah, right.
Anyhow.
Every console. Right?
Yes, they're just low-powered PCs, regardless of all that. So, no, okay. So, and like I said, it doesn't sound like anyone in our chat has been playing. So we'll see. Who knows? I know it's a big thing out there in general for gamers. I have heard a lot about it. At least people have been good about not spoiling anything, but just saying they're excited and loving it. So I was curious if anyone else has had the time, because I started getting back into Tomb Raider, the middle one of the new set, and looked back through my list of things that I probably need to finish, like Majora's Mask for the first time, and stuff before I should pick up another thing, let alone Tales of Zestiria and a bunch of others. But so I was just curious. All right, skipping past that to now get and talk about more relevant things and current things.
Yeah.
And that about literature. And the fact that we have 2 authors in the room here, none of which is me. And last time as we were talking, had you guys on, we were focusing on the re-release of your books, John, for the overall sort of the Dragon series and your remake, the second editions of them all, and how that's been out there and going. But today, we're focused on the other Mike, and that being for the works from Beck. And so, Miss Beck, what is it we're here to talk about today?
It's finally officially out. After, I think, I pulled up the original file for this book, and I started it in, 2015. So, it's been a minute, but Bloody Notes is finally out. Yay!
So, for everyone watching, we'd hinted at this before. And that's been basically because, as we were talking about, it was what both of you have been working on. And admittedly, when last we talked about it, I wasn't quite sure how close Bloody Notes was. And it's funny as you bring it up as when your first file began for it, because my cousin, when we were talking a little bit about me having you guys on today, one of his questions was, being completely outside the realm of doing any kind of writing, but that idea of how long does it take, right, to come up with and actually write a book? And in the sense of this, I mean, that's a very broad question and not well formed by itself. But there's aspects of it where it's one thing to maybe just have an idea about something you'd like to create. Mm-hmm. But it's another thing once you start putting pen to paper or start typing and building your first files, like you said, as you're kind of creating a story, of when you first go from the process of maybe... Well, and I guess it's all worth talking to, but how much of the process is there for each of you, but specifically on this book, Beck, for that initial thought of, I want to create a book, that the story and thought I have in mind needs to come out, to the process of actually building it, from research and kind of forming, outlining, kind of setting up the process for it before you even start really writing the story? Or how did that process progress for you for this book?
For Bloody Notes, I spent about a month doing research before, because I did this as part of National Novel Writing Month, so I had 30 days to actually write the book.
Okay.
And I did a month of research before. I first researched the timeline that I wanted, so I knew that I wanted it actually in Victorian era, so I looked up what happened during Victoria's reign to get an idea, can I work with any of these events, or do I just go straight with completely alternative timeline? And as I was getting up higher and higher and higher into Victoria's reign, I see 1888, Jack the Ripper murder spree. And I was like, ooh, that could be fun. So I started researching a lot on Jack the Ripper, what the murders were exactly, who was actually murdered, when they were murdered. Actually looking at some of the crime scene photos was terrifying, especially for Mary Kelly, the final victim, because she was completely mutilated. It was lots of guts. But then I was like, okay, but if this is going to be steampunk, how do I switch this around from just being a normal murder? And that's where the whole entire plot of the book comes in, because I don't want to spill anything.
Yes, but so essentially,
yeah.
you started off, like you said, for this specific one, it was a writing challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And knowing kind of that, but you knew it was coming. You were basically, you had planned for this challenge to occur.
Kind of.
You knew you wanted to participate, and that's where you did the research ahead of time?
I always wanted to do something for National Novel Writing Month because so many of my friends were doing it. And I was like, but I have absolutely no ideas, no solid ideas. And around the time that people were starting to prep for their National Novel Writing Month, a friend of mine came to me and he's like, I want to start a new role play. But all that we were ever doing at the time was Naruto. So I was like, okay, so what do you want to do? He's like, well, I kind of like steampunk, so let's see what we can go on that. So we created our characters, and I was like, I'm going to write up the mock-up for getting it started. So we kind of have an idea of where we're going to go from there. But then things started getting really busy for him, and he was unable to come up with any replies back. So I was like, I really like this story. Are you okay if I kidnap your character and use him for a book? And he's like, no, go ahead. He's basically, and he told me, he's basically a Victorian version of Batman, so do with him whatever you want. And I was like, okay. So yeah, this is all my friend Josh's fault that I even got this book started. So nice. I finally had something to go with.
Okay. Yeah. But that all led into like the premise, like that kind of gave you some of the puzzle pieces behind what you were planning on making.
Yeah.
So when you started the research, is it more that you knew that you wanted it to be in that era, like you said? At the time when you first were starting to do the research, did you know what kind of plot you were going forward with? Because it sounds like you stumbled upon the whole Jack the Ripper story.
I kind of did stumble upon it, and that was when things clicked. But I was like, but with Jack the Ripper being an unsolved murder, I was trying to figure out how to work in actually coming up with a solution for the murder, if there was going to be anything else. And as I was continuing research later with a book that he gave me, I found out that London back then was actually kind of in turmoil that we are now in America, with higher class being so high and lower class being so low that there was tension. Friction between them really, really bad. So it was kind of this idea of, so what if there's this person that is on that very low spectrum and they want to figure out a way to break society?
Gotcha.
And that's kind of the
underlining
theme for the whole entire series.
So you knew that much kind of going in as you started doing your research, the general plot line that'd be behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's curious, because those are some of the things where my cousin and I kind of going back and forth about some things, realizing that we are not of a mind where we believe we could really write a book, in the sense that I was like, I wouldn't know where to begin, I wouldn't know how to put down. I mean, I have told and advised people, and you've suffered it from me, John, in the past, I know a lot of the ideas about how you can help allow for very good writing to occur. Things, where I've always said where characters will often drive the story more than you as an author will force them to go a direction. That once you've really identified your characters, your world, and stuff like that, a lot of it just kind of fits and just goes its own way. It all makes sense to me, but it's not like I've put that into action myself. So I'm really just talking from the realm of theory. And so it's really interesting to get into how it applies for people that are actually doing it. But when you said that this all started, and this is years ago, but as part of this writing challenge, so in that 30-day challenge, did you basically complete the overall book?
Yes. I got... the challenge is to write a minimum of 50,000 words in 30 days. So that's about, I think, 1,333 words a day. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. Especially the people that I don't know how they challenge themselves to write 200,000 a day, or 200,000 by the end of the month. But
200,000 a day. Okay.
Yeah, 200,000 a day. You wouldn't stop.
That would be awesome. That'd be prolific as heck.
But it was just for the month mostly just getting it out, and then once I've got it all out, then I could go back and figure out what didn't work, what needs a little more elaboration. That's when I had the first beta readers on the National Novel Writing Month website that they went through it and they're like, you have a little bit too much description here, you need a little more over here. And I'm like, okay, I didn't really think of that, but thank you.
Dresses.
I had a bad habit of talking about dresses that didn't actually make it to the final main scene. So,
Well,
I'm a visual person, so I want people to actually see what it is that I'm talking about.
Yeah, you want people to be able to visualize the world that you're seeing in your mind and the story that you're trying to express. It's not just you're trying to get the plot out there, but the whole point of it being a steampunk experience and the time frame it's taking in is to take advantage of that scenery. So that makes total sense. And it's funny because, and I, as I've told people in the past, a little bit had the opportunity to be another beta reader after your overall release.
Yeah.
To go through and give a little bit of feedback as well.
And it helped majorly. I think all the feedback that you gave me really helped to flesh out just that little bit more.
Well, I was happy to help. I was very excited actually to finally read and hear it. I will admit to the audience I cheated in the sense that in order to chance of actually sitting down and reading, and partially because when I sit down and read, I tend to do it in paper format, and because you were still in that pre-production mode, that you only had a couple prints of your beta, ones for people to actually review, that I took a digital copy. But the challenge I had with digital is for me to sit down on like my phone or something and really read takes a bit of a challenge. And so I cheated and I used an app I have on my phone called VoiceStream, which is one I think I actually paid for, honestly. But it's an app that does text-to-speech. I feel like does a fairly decent job.
It did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it lets you hear some of it.
I kind of want to can you
adjust?
Download different voices or something?
You
so
can.
It's in a British tone or something.
You can actually choose different voices for
Giles' voice.
Well, because I want to say the base that I have on my phone right now is a British female. Right now, and because I tried to use an Aussie, that was a mess, and the regular American one wasn't working for me. But it does have a couple voices that I think you do, and there's some other packs you do. But it does a decent job, so I used it as a way to kind of make my own audiobook of it as I was crafting and doing some other things at the same time. So admittedly, I was able to do it from a higher level beta test than it was like specifically spellings or anything like that. But it sounded like that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, and a couple other people that I had going through it, the physical copies of it, they didn't really catch much of anything. It's like, I've gone through it 20 times already, so I'm hoping there weren't any spelling errors, but then I did find some as I was going through and changing a couple other things, so I was like, oh crap.
Well, and the challenge, right, because we get cheated in a good way that we have these word editing applications and programs that do a good job of it, but at the same time can't find everything. Yeah. And so it's always funny to see what it does and doesn't catch. But in that process, for me, it was a lot of fun to go through and get the sense of what it was you were trying to express. And, not that I don't do editing or anything like that. This is my perspective was just coming from someone who, likes to read and enjoys books for the reasons I enjoy it, was able to provide some feedback. And so, admittedly, I felt concerned for giving feedback in the sense of I wasn't sure how critical to be. Like, I really was. I told John a few times, I was kind of like, I don't know, will you feel bad if I bring up that this or this did or didn't work for me kind of thing? And equally then, even with the feedback I gave, when you had mentioned that you had already kind of done a bit of tweaking and incorporating some stuff, I was like, oh man, I didn't expect it to be such a quick turnaround on your part. But yeah. I didn't realize how ready you were to finish getting it out and be done with the book. So
timelines right now kind of sucked. I've been wanting to get this out for 2 years or so now, but life happened.
It does?
And then we finally got our table at
WhimsyCon. This guy came into your life.
This guy right here.
Somehow met him, came in and did all these things. So.
But then WhimsyCon, and we decided we were going to finally get our table, and I was like, I need this out now.
Well, so it's amazing what a deadline will do for, especially when you're self-publishing.
I kept on telling myself a deadline. It's going to be the end of the year. It's going to be the end of the year. Never happened.
No, but I think that's something you both have applied, because I know for John, you were trying to get your, new set out, your second editions before the holiday season so that people could get them for Christmas, things like that. And then, like you said, to be able to have them at the table at Whimsy, which is coming up at the end of this month, to be able to have them out and people in hand and so they could purchase it, which for those listening, you can buy right now on Amazon. I'll have the link in the show notes, as well as I might share it here real quick.
Print and Kindle.
So yes, it is available today, and if anybody wants to basically follow along or go ahead and pick up a copy yourself, for those live, there's the link in the chat, like I said, as well as I'll include it in the notes for this episode.
Hopefully, did they link them? They did link them finally.
Yeah,
Yay.
I got an email this morning that they did link it finally. I was like, yes, thank God.
I always focus on the paperback version because that is my jam. And for those who check out the cover, if you happen to notice and look at the stream right now, you may see a certain similarity in that, yes, it's an opportunity where Beck posed for her own cover shot, and I remember going through some of the prototypes on that of what the cover would look like and what imagery was going to be used, so that's pretty cool.
And the main reason that I used myself as a model is to make sure that I was not going to have a cover that looked like anyone else's.
That is one way to make sure it's unique, unless you've been modeling for a lot of others as well.
Nope. I'm not Jessie.
Exactly.
But yeah, because I was going through Amazon to get an idea of what covers would look like, and on one page, I saw the same model, the same exact stock image, used on 2 different books from 2 different authors. And I was like,
oh, nope.
That's what I want to avoid.
Yeah,
so I'm using myself.
That does make it a little more specific. Makes it a lot easier to make sure it's yours. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about the writing process and such, because you had that, not hiatus, but a moment of time there. You had gone through the initial writing. After that first point where you'd gone through the... and we'll get into it a little bit later here, a little more of the plot and understanding of what to excite you guys for why you all need to pick this book up today. But it was in the process there where you got the first, what was it? You said 50,000 words down in a month?
For me, it was at the end just a little over 53,000.
Okay. And what is your final book word tally up to or such?
I think by the final it was a little over 54,000.
Okay, so essentially you
had
gotten basically the entire book out.
Yeah.
By that point.
I had taken some away, but also added more here and there. So, yeah, it's basically about the same length that it started, probably.
Okay, cool. So for those who don't know, it's somewhere in a range. It's roughly a 200-page book.
Yeah, 205, I think it ended up being after the final edits this last time.
But in such that it is, in my opinion, it is somewhat of a, how do I put it, an easy read. And it's not one that's going to take you months and months to accomplish and such. It's something that you can pick up and read pretty straightforward, get through it. I'm trying to think of how to talk about the book without any spoilers of the story itself. The story focuses around a main character, that of Nessa, yes. Correct? And in this steampunk Victorian time frame. For those, I know we've talked about it before, but how do you, for the world itself and that time frame, what are some of the key characteristics that identify or really make it different than other environments or timelines that people might experience outside of that? What makes it steampunk? What makes it that Victorian era? What are some of those key things that people would expect in the world when they are getting into it?
Of the technology is a bit more advanced than it would have been in the actual Victorian era. Vanessa creates a wind rider, is what it's called. If you've ever seen Treasure Planet, the Disney version of Treasure Planet, it's kind of like Jim's Solar Surfer, but steam powered. The board itself is a little bit more bulkier in order to have space for the steam components and things like that. One of the little things that I added after some of your advice is special goggles that can see the differences between different kinds of liquids. Just the technology is the biggest thing that makes the difference between normal Victorian, steampunk Victorian.
I know for me, I've always blended it, and I know it's not accurate, but I think a lot of the visualization I've seen is kind of Western U.S., but the idea that you have a lot of brass, copper components, things like that tied into everyday life where they're building steam engines, but are also able to harness in many ways power of electricity beyond just propulsion mechanical power from what you'd get from steam. That in this era as well, in a lot of steampunk, they've been able to translate that into electricity and some of the basic uses. So a lot of times in steampunk I've seen where you do get the ability of actual lights, electric light bulbs versus still using torches and oil and things like that, to in some of the fanciful things, because steampunk does have that level of fantasy and fiction to it, exotic devices, tools, weapons, whatever might be that are out there that maybe don't even exist today in our world, because the idea is it took a different path towards what technology focused its main goals on and the way it works. And so I definitely see that, as well as what's fun about it and what I really like about the steampunk world is not only is it taking this kind of somewhat over-the-top fancy view of what technology could be, I think it incorporates it with one of the arguably more drastic but elegant stylized time frames when it comes to clothing, and where you get, that Victorian level of dress and what people wear. It did have, corsets and I always think about the challenges of the hoop skirts and things like that, and what is it called that makes the bum bigger? Bustles and stuff like that. The elements of the clothing that were all fancier and bigger, men wearing suits and top hats and things like that. That there was a certain level of elegance in the outfits, and so you kind of blend those two things together of looks, and you get this wonderful aesthetic that is a combination of just really fancy clothing as well as really neat ways to tie technology into that you wouldn't just have like a normal little like watch, right? You'd have things that had a little more element to it to be able to make those pocket watches or other things. Just that's the way I visualize those worlds in general to me. And so what was it about the steampunk aspect that you wanted to draw and incorporate that into this world?
For me, mostly it was the fashion.
Okay.
And I kind of make a point with it during the Christmas party in this one. Vanessa doesn't wear typical women's clothing. She despises corsets. She would much prefer wearing a button-down and trousers. And as a bodyguard, wearing a corset is very difficult. So she asks to start wearing the corsets on the outside of her dresses, which is a very main steampunk look for the ladies, is wearing your corsets on the outside rather than on the underside.
Instead of just being a functional piece to draw in your waist and create the shape that a dress of the time would fit over, was actually incorporating it, or instead making it a visible aspect of the outfit.
And then it's also so that as she works, if she does have to act in a way that the corset cannot allow for movement-wise, she can have the laces cut and easily removed.
And it's unfortunate because the way my mind works, and we'll have to take this offline, but I just thought of another way you could do it with a corset on the outside and make it so, yeah. I just thought of a cool way to incorporate that into actually using the corset further. Got thoughts for you.
Okay. Talk later. I just had an idea, actually. Now I had to type it down on my phone. That's why.
The metal boning, but in a way that you can actually pull it out as weapons.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Like throwing weapons or
That
Wolverine
might be cool.
claws, but actually being able to just... And it also changes the structure so it's more flexible now because the boning's
That
out.
might actually be a cool idea.
Sorry, this is
Crap.
how Wayne's mind works whenever he thinks about subjects. He can't leave it well enough alone.
Down, so excuse me.
But as well as some of the feedback and stuff kind of things I do, this is what my brain does. Anyhow. So the story being told, like I said, it ends up being, in general, I would say it's kind of a murder mystery in some way, but also a bit of a detective story.
Yeah.
Kind of how it ties together, because it's not just, as you said, so Ness being the main character, but not the character that you stole from your friend. Because that character that you described as kind of a steampunk Batman S character, his name, because oh gosh, I can't believe I just lost it.
Leon von Hohenheim.
Thank you, Leon, in the role there, who is a character that kind of for me pulls off that bit of a Sherlock Holmes without being Sherlock Holmes, more the Batman-esque thing, but basically someone who is thoughtful, detective-like, and does support and help the local magistrate in how they do their investigation stuff, especially when it reaches into something as heinous as the kind of crimes that occur in the book. And there's some combination of how they all interact together. Oh gosh, I'm bad. My brain is starting to do so many bad things. Anyhow, and so it tells the story kind of both the interaction between Leon and Nessa, as the world then it kind of incorporates this whole element of the storyline going through, and the plot of which reaches in and incorporates a version of the murders from Jack the Ripper, and how that all ties together. So, no spoiler in the sense there other than knowing that that's what it's based upon, but it kind of ties into the whole story of what happens throughout it. So bringing that all together and kind of say, and again, I don't want to get into the plot line. So, yeah, basically it's a get the book, go read it.
Some good staples of steampunk that make their presence known in this is airships. Definitely.
Yeah, so the world definitely has everything from the airships going on. Like I said, discussion of the fashion and things like that, some of the transportation besides the airships around the world itself. You do get into definitely the casts and kind of the difference in the level of those that have wealth and those that do not, and how that works as motivations into what characters are doing in the story. So I think you do a wonderful job of tying all of those together into a world that makes sense. And I guess one of my questions would be, because steampunk itself is a very defined genre. You'll see it around convention scene all the time. There's festivals specifically for it. I mean, heck, even when I went out to Maker's Faire years ago in California, they had an whole area that was dedicated to steampunk along with that. Well, it makes sense. You got to think, because Maker's Faire is all about taking bits and pieces of whatever and making cool stuff out of it. If you've ever seen some of the bigger attractions they have at Maker Faire, where it's some of like the musical events they have, people on large rotating like wheels that have multiple stations.
Is that the one with the band that I've seen recently?
You've seen some of those and things like that. But there's variations like that too. Massive, oh gosh, I want to say octopus that breathes fire and things like that. But it's all mechanical bits and stuff like that. I will have to show you some of that after. But there's a lot of things that have been done that steampunk is very prolific, and it's a genre unto itself. And so it's fun to see stories that are taking advantage of that and speaking to that audience. And something for, I'd say, anyone out there who's fans of this show, all the geeks in our world, is if you haven't experienced the genre, it's one that I find fascinating, because it gets to take on, for me, some of the levels of being a tinkerer in a lot of ways, right? Building with your own hands, being creative.
That's
and
definitely you.
Finding ways to solve problems with just what's at hand, let alone creating inventive solutions to other things and stuff like that, which all fits in there, but using cool tools and the things that are around, which is really what I like about it. And so, I mean, it is out there and throughout. So, where was I going with? I had the question of, knowing that steampunk being such a specific genre, what type of things did you do to help either really incorporate your story into the known steampunk universe, or in opposite to that, kind of differentiate your view of steampunk from what might be classically thought of? You know, how did you either really jump into what was there already and make yourself part of it, or make your own version?
I kind of borrowed bits and pieces here. But I've noticed that with a couple of the steampunk stories that I've read, they are very heavy in the steampunk, that it's almost unrecognizable as any other type of world, where I still wanted this to kind of feel like it could have been our history somehow. Because the others, ones that I've read where there is, steampunk is the normal, the highest paying job is being a clock worker, a clockmaker, or something of that like, and I kind of hint a little at this by, rather than it's a junkyard, it's a clock yard. But still, I think the biggest thing that I kind of borrowed was the airships. Idea.
Those are iconic.
Yeah, that's the most, you hear steampunk, that's usually you think goggles and airships are the big thing. I don't think anyone's ever actually worn goggles in mine yet. I'm going to have to change that. No, I don't think I had her ever wear goggles, but anyway.
Well, but also the way you're doing it, though, I mean, you're bringing on if you, as you mentioned, my recommendation or the thought I had on there, it's more of the tech aspect of what you were showing versus a fashion or something every day. But you're also depicting it in a larger city environment where, from what I saw of it, I don't know where someone would wear goggles.
Yeah.
From what I experienced
other than working on the airships themselves.
But even on the airship, the one you have is the one you're depicting primarily is one of these more big luxury environments where everyone's enclosed anyways. I could see if you had talked about some of the crew who might be on outlying areas or something like that, that might make sense. And that might be something you would highlight as
which
just
is coming up in the future.
But that's the thing, right? So there's opportunities where I think you would focus more on that aspect of the look what really differentiates from the average public. Because even most of the people we run into on the streets in Bloody Notes, it's going to be more people that are already on location or something versus like, okay, if I was on my equivalent of a steam-powered motorcycle where there's no windshield or something, I'm absolutely going to have goggles, right? In those aspects, I can see where it makes sense. Anyone who's on traveling devices, I think it makes sense to have goggles. If you're walking around the streets, I don't see the sense in it.
Which, unfortunately, that's one of the things that kind of bugged me too. Is in some of the other stories, they just wear goggles because that's what you think of.
Because the fashion of it versus the like, actual function.
But there's no function for it.
Yeah.
And I think this might have been one of your pet peeves seeing at conventions. Top hats with goggles on it.
You have talked about that in the past.
How do you slide that down easily over your eyes with that brim?
Yeah, where you'd have to pull it out. No, those are always entertaining. But I appreciate that thought process because for me, I would much rather see the function. Although it would be fun in a story, oh, this would be so bad, to poke at some of the fashion that is traditional of steampunk in saying that someone like a character like Nessa, whose everything's going to be very practical, because these are things that she's using in her daily life, right, every day, to actually, call out someone who's just doing a fashion sense. Where it's one thing that's like wearing goggles because of the wind rudder and stuff like that, where it's like absolutely necessary because that first time otherwise your eyes bleeding dry and you can't see where you're going. Versus the guy who's like, oh look, this guy who always likes to be on the trend of fashion, who is wearing this, and you look as like, and making that inner monologue of kind of like, how the bloody heck is someone ever going to do that? You can't use that. Or so, yeah. I can see where that would be fun. A
or
fun way to
trying
poke.
To fit in with higher class.
Yeah, and
that,
doing things.
Oh, this is appropriate. I should wear this. And Ness is like,
no.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it would be great to see that called out at some point, especially in your future books, because that's another piece of it. For those who have the opportunity and go out there and get hold of Bloody Notes, read through this, know that while it may not be stated directly, this is not the only book in the series. It is by all means standalone, in that this is its own story, front to back. However, the world being introduced by Beck here and kind of explored is going to continue, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Leviathan.
The Leviathan Mysteries is going to be the name of the series itself.
Looking at the book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's subtitled underneath it, Bloody Notes, the Leviathan Mysteries novel. So
the nice thing
I'm
is...
not sure how many it's going to be.
Okay.
But there's probably going to be at least a minimum of 3. If not more.
Now, and with that, is that something that you had thought when you first went into the writing exercise, or was it more something that now that it's created, you're like,
Yeah.
Now,
when I first wrote it, it was going to be just a standalone, but after sitting there and starting going through the editing, I was like, I really like these characters. What can I do with them?
Well, no, that's exactly what I was going to ask, if that was drawn more by the characters themselves and kind of the interactions they've had in your time with them, or if it was more just a thought where you were kind of like, this needs to go further, I need more, just whatever. But I can imagine where the characters themselves would lend themselves to needing more stories told.
And I've thought about, while I was trying to get this one done, writing a small short stories book of some of the main characters pre this book.
Okay.
So get to know Vanessa a little bit more in some of her earlier days, getting to know Leon a bit more in his earlier days with his family. Even little Thomas is kind of a minor character in this one, but he will become a bit more of a main character later. Getting to know him before he joins the gang at the beginning of this book. And I'm not sure if I'm actually going to do that now or if I'll just build up with some of the backstory in future books.
Gotcha. But ways to expand upon the universe and the characters more and more so that, to help, as we've discussed, some of the things I love in any book is you focus on the main plot and the main characters there and you get introduced to other characters and things that happen, but then loving that whenever a character gets its time to shine, their character's time to be a little more of a focus or have more plot going on around them, things like that. I appreciate that because that allows me to see a bigger world and to encapsulate better the relationships between multiple characters. And for me, that's always a lot of fun, as well as just anything I can call out later and be like, oh, that's the thing, or that's what's going on. So it's exciting for me to hear that these characters and the way they've started are going to continue on and have more stories to be able to follow them in. That's always a great time. But I say that, and I bring it up specifically because it is an opportunity that for people who just want to have a new experience in the world to kind of check out, this is a great book, in my opinion, to get in there and just, you can consume it, easy read, and potentially kick off a whole nother thing of things to look forward to. You know, as well as branching out and just if you generally like steampunk as such, there's a ton of books out there that are written in this genre. And it's one that I don't think gets discussed nearly enough because it's not traditional high or low fantasy, and it's not
quite that popular yet.
Yeah,
it's getting there, but it's not quite there yet.
And so that,
and it has its subgenres too, which also makes it interesting. In a way, a lot of niche stuff. But I think of the Lotus War trilogies, trilogy of books I've read that. It's Japanese steampunk, which is extremely different from Victorian steampunk or Western steampunk. So there's a lot of, if you don't like Victorian era, there's steampunk out there that might be for you because there's other kinds.
Yeah,
no,
even
absolutely.
those other genres have their own titles. So steampunk is, you usually picture, is going to be in London, whereas, as he just said, the Japanese one is typically dubbed silk punk.
Interesting. So what about the Western, like Americanized version?
I haven't heard if there's a sub-name for that section yet, but
Wild
I know
West.
that...
No, you say that.
The dust punk, maybe.
Well, but in a way, that's actually what I picture. When I think of just media that's actually kind of gone that route, Wild Wild West absolutely came to mind.
One, yeah.
The newer one with Will Smith that, while arguably whether quality movie or not, the type of technology and things it shows... to me is one of those aspects I use to kind of encapsulate when I think of steampunk and from an American perspective. And I think that's what it is, because I've seen a lot of representation from an American perspective, and it tends to put it in that Western expansion time frame for the United States. And thus more Western versus, classic cowboys and Indian type time frame versus Victorian and such. And honestly, I'd have to look at dates and times to see how accurate or how much they interact together. But in a way, I think it's all appropriate. How would Western expansion in the United States have changed if they had steam power? And not just in trains, right? But actually airships and things like that. What would that have changed? But I mean, I could see that being a very interesting aspect to it. But no, I am a big fan of, for me, this was my introduction to actually reading in the genre. Where, I mean, I've been aware of and around steampunk, and I've done little things that I have done to... yeah,
I agree with you, Kopi.
No giant mechanized spiders, please. How about lots of little mechanized spiders?
Creepy.
That could be.
The wheels turning.
No, but the next book has the opening battle scene is with mechanized spiders.
Oh, look at that!
They're little, aren't they?
They're not. They're not little.
More
like
replicator size or replicants.
Stargate, yes, Stargate.
Not that size, but not the size that Wild Wild West did.
Not a massive vehicle either.
Probably about like mid-human height. Probably about like 3 or 4 feet tall.
So like bigger than large dog.
Yeah, bigger than a large dog.
Ooh, nice. Oh, see, never mind. Thoughts and ideas. Well, because I know the plot of your current book and thoughts of how that could go out. I could see how that could expand into definition of how the world goes further for what that would be. And so that sounds fun. But yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the great things about this. And because, it's fiction, right? But you've tied it in with things that have really happened and just given it your own twist on everything. And so, but the fun part about that is I think, doesn't that give you a lot of creative space, a lot of world to play in?
Yeah, and I always kind of say that this is the point that I picked for this particular book is where history splits. This is the point where I can start doing whatever I want with the timeline, because even looking at the actual timeline of events after Jack the Ripper, not much happens. There's a couple of wars that aren't related to London or Europe or anything like that. So I'm like, there's nothing I can work with. So now what do I do? And one of the big things that I read about was Crystal Palace and expos. And that's how the next one opens up, is with one of those expos at the Crystal Palace.
Ooh.
And I kind of want to like poke at a specific steampunk band and be like, can I use your guys' image as a reference during this expo? Because that was actually kind of a thing even in your guys' history as being a thing that would happen.
I can see what you're trying to do.
Can I? Plus, it'll kind of give some, fans your direction, coming my direction, and
cross-pollination. It's always good.
Maybe.
It might actually be worth reaching out to them because
I really want to.
I can think
we already have a connection to Bunny.
I was going to say, I can think of opportunities of what you're trying to do with that. So, and it does make me want to speak more to the potential plot line of things not on air, so that you can work with that. Again, my wheels are spinning as well, and so it's fun. But yeah, so those
Lotus War.
I was going to say Lotus.
Record of Lotus War, is that what Copies?
Well, so that when I think of Lotus War, I normally think of Record of. But because when you had brought up the Japanese one, you said that was for the steampunk.
Yeah, it was the Lotus War, which is it's a trilogy of books, very steampunk. It's a very fantastical universe. There's even griffins in it. They call them Arashi Tora in it.
Okay, so it deals with some of the Japanese folklore as well.
Yes, very much so.
So it's a combination of fantasy and sci-fi and the level of steampunk.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Very good trilogy of books.
I wasn't sure if that's what Copy was reading out to, though, but it sounds more like Lotus War because she says, but also elves, which is a huge thing for the fantasy side of that, so I can understand that one as well. With where you're going forward with your stories after this book, are there aspects that you're looking forward to highlighting when it comes to, is it more of, again, the fashion and specific aspects of it, or are there aspects of the steampunk world and technology that you really want to be able to go explore, or is it more just really the characters in this world? What kind of things do you see driving some of like the scenery or the things that you bring into your future books?
It's a lot of the characters, but technology is going to really start being a big part starting the next one because of a certain mythological creature that they finally find out is not so mythological, and they need to figure out ways to tame it.
Interesting.
So the technology is trying to figure out how exactly they can tame this beast.
No, that sounds very interesting. And so that'll be fun. That'll be fun because I have my own taste of the things that I pull out of any storyline and how things are expressed. And so I look forward to that because that sounds like it'll be some interesting things to learn about and to start to partake myself.
Yeah.
And so can't wait. Try to think, because I know there's also opportunities. Now, this kicks back over to the geek side of the house with us. But like I said, for anyone that has any questions, feel free to chat in about any of the questions or even send an email at showx at VTW Productions. Happy to pass that on to the Wasiks here. But as it also blends over with some of our general things we enjoy outside of our own creativity or in line with when it comes to the cosplay and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, I know I've shared to some level, as we were talking about, we have upcoming events here, one of them being the WhimsyCon that's coming up at the end of the month. For those who don't know, and specifically those in the Colorado area, since it takes place here, what can you tell them about WhimsyCon itself? It's coming up.
WhimsyCon is the predecessor of AnomalyCon, which was Colorado. Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
AnomalyCon came first.
AnomalyCon came first, and
went
it was
away,
the
and now we have
steampunk convention. WhimsyCon came along when the organizers could no longer fund it, I think it was, and expanded it from just steampunk to an all costuming and props and the look kind of convention. So Whimsy is a lot of information on how to get your cosplaying started, how to get your books started, a lot of how to build on what we already have, not just steampunk wise, but even Victorian or whatever you want to do with cosplaying. It's a good foundation. They have a lot of different stuff. But it's not overwhelming. It's still a small convention, so it's nice and relaxed.
It's not crazy like Denver Comic-Con or
Pop Culture Con.
Whatever you want to call it now.
Pop Culture Con.
Thus, to avoid future legal action by San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, they don't care about other Comic-Cons.
Whatever.
No, pop culture is trying to be proactive in avoiding things.
Gotcha.
But they also blew up bigger than most other cons in a very short period of time. So eyes are on.
Yeah.
But no, so WhimsyCon coming up, like I said, it was something that came out of the steampunk that was happening here in the area with AnomalyCon.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have an opportunity to present there because, like you said, you're going to have both a table that's going to be there to show your wares, not only the books that you have, but also some of your crafting.
Yeah, I have a lot of jewelry. I've dabbled in resin and Sculpey projects, so I have a lot of resin necklaces and Sculpey necklaces that are still kind of within my genre of steampunk. So there's octopuses, and now I've got mermaid tails. So mine's like sea.
Yeah, you've got a bit of nautical in yours.
And his is air, because his is the books with the dragons and things like that. And yeah.
So you guys will be sharing a table there to present all of the things you have. But that's not all you're doing at WhimsyCon. If people are coming to look for you, it sounds like you're also going to have some opportunities to present some panel?
Yeah, so
She's gonna have a panel.
I am going to be having a panel. The thing that I've kind of become known for at WhimsyCon and also Anomaly was my Steam Power Draft inspired makeup. I've only managed to run into a couple of other people that have done the makeup here in Colorado, whereas out of state I've seen a lot more. And I'm not sure if it's just because people aren't sure really how to do the makeup, what supplies they need, but that's what my panel is about, is how to become a robot using the makeups. So it's going to be a kind of show and tell, as Wade is my model. I am going to bot him up. The panel is on Saturday afternoon.
Last weekend of the month when Whimsy's going on, and so it's the end of February into March.
Second Saturday, I think at 12 o'clock.
Okay.
To 12:50. And it's going to be a show and tell of what products to use, what tools to use, how to apply, just kind of how I apply versus watching some of their videos on the band itself, how they've applied their makeup and things that I've picked up along the way.
Some of the lessons learned you have from both doing your own costuming and just in general kind of looking at how to produce and make someone look automaton.
And there's, with the way that I do my makeup, it's more for a camera. Whereas the way that the band does their makeup is more for stage. And the big difference there is how you do your lines.
Yeah, whether it's big, bold, and ready for people to see from afar under the bright lights, or if it's got detail and stuff up close.
Yeah, because mine usually have the smaller details, and I go into the depth of doing shadowing from the different panels, overlaying and such, whereas the band themselves just do very bold lines to show the different panels.
I just sent you a image on Facebook if you want to share it to the screen of one of her, I think that was from 2017.
And I've come up with a few bot designs since doing...
One of the two of you showing off bot.
Yeah.
And so, yes, this one here, let's say, I don't know if I saw that one. Was that from Whimsy?
Yeah.
Okay, then I wouldn't have seen it
Whimsy,
because I wasn't at the first Whimsy. Yeah. But I was looking, like, that is a different bot face than I have seen in the past.
So this one is Sprocket is her name, and each of the designs that I've come up with, I've kind of come up with a backstory for them. And the first one that I had was Widget. She was created at the end of the Victorian era to kind of be the stand-in for a man's wife after she had passed away because he had missed her so much. But upon learning that she might look like her, she doesn't have the memories and was abandoned.
Gotcha. Ooh.
The second one that I came up with is Tinker, who was created in the 1920s as a performer.
And that's how we met.
And that's how I met him, was wearing Tinker. And then Sprocket was a bit more of the 1950s flair.
Okay. Very cool.
I have others that have been in the works, but I haven't actually done the makeup for them yet. And then others that I've created for friends. Yeah.
No, it's cool. No, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
The bot maker of Denver.
Yeah,
So-
it kind of seems that way.
Yeah, that is very cool. And I like that you get to blend all of that together, both in what you're doing for storytelling as well as what you're doing for your own costuming and crafting and things like that, that it all continues along the same theme, which is a lot of fun so that anyone who is reaching out to come find you and actually, talk to you and stuff like that and actually pick up some of your wares, it's basically, if you're into steampunk in this kind of realm, you can go to Beck and get everything that you're after. So that's really cool. All right.
She'll be entering one of her bots into the costume contest, which I will be the MC for, the Master of Ceremonies for.
Tinker will be making her stage debut.
Very nice.
At the Saturday evening costume contest.
With the one they present, does it allow for music and soundtrack and performance, or is it more just
You can do a little bit of music, but you're on stage for a very short period, so I'm still trying to figure out what I want to put for music. Oh my.
So many thoughts and ideas. No, this is good. My
I already
brain
have
does
some
not shut
horrible
off.
ideas of what I'm going to do on stage. So.
Can't be horrible ideas. I'm sure they're wonderful. So, perfect. Well, no, so I appreciate that because that should, for everyone out there, give you a chance of things to look forward to from both the Wasiks. This case, like I said, you can still go out there and find John's books out there if you're going and looking for the Sword of Dragon series. Both yours and Beck's are available on Amazon. Like I said, I will include notes, links so that you guys can go out there and grab them if you haven't already. There are some wonderful reads. That way you can get prepped and into what will be coming forth in the future. And so, now, of course, the ultimate terrible question to ask any author for both of you guys is, where are you at in your future projects? Are you taking a moment's respite now that you've got things out and available for people, or are you jumping right into the next pieces, or...
For me, I've been dabbling in book 3, but I haven't had an opportunity because we've been house hunting and
life,
stuff.
like you said. Now you guys are transitioning into bigger and better things.
I would be surprised if I get book 3 out by 2019, but I would like to.
Gotcha.
I'll have an office at the house, so it might be a little easier for me to focus on writing.
Same. Couple of years ago, I tried starting on the sequel, and I just couldn't get it off the ground, so I just completely scrapped it and starting over, and I'm liking how it's starting now compared to the first time. I've completely cut out the opening scene and just kind of jumping into the action of it more. Not sure. I kind of want to try to do the same challenge thing again, so I might just hold off pausing and not wait until November, but just a 30-day month.
And just knock it out and focus?
Knock it out and focus on it.
Nice.
And do that again. But I need to do just a little bit more research, kind of flesh out what the storyline is going to be, because I still have gaps here and there.
Fair.
That I haven't quite figured out.
Going from the outline skeleton to trying to pull it all together?
Yeah.
Nope, that makes sense.
So, working on it, but as John has said, house hunting has kind of killed our time and our just, in general, energy.
It takes a lot to try to figure out where you're going to lay your head every night and things like that, especially when you haven't, when this is going to be your first overall home purchase and things like that.
I'm just glad we're in the final stretch now.
Life things. And so, yeah, it happens. No, but that's cool. I say that because I know anytime people have talked to me about any authors I've known, everybody's always interested in that next project. They're like, I love what you did, but what about what's next? I need to get a little bit of that fix in here. Come on, guys. And so, I tend to get that. And like I said, the horrible question for any author, but throwing it out there. And it's great to hear that you guys have things planned and you're going to be working on stuff. So now, as we reach the top of the end of the show for today, is there anything, anywhere, I always want to throw it out there for you guys to pimp out and share what places people can follow, catch, and see what you've been doing, just so that they can keep up to date. Let alone, like I said, you'll have the notes to go buy the books right away. Easy peasy. You can just look on them for Amazon if you don't see them in our notes, but that's easy to find. But beyond that, where can people follow what you guys are up to?
We're both on Facebook.
We got Facebook pages. We each have our own authors page. We also have
Blog.
Newman Crafts on Facebook, which is our cosplay and crafting page. We both have blogs on WordPress, Twitch for gaming, though we haven't been able to do that lately because our internet sucks at our apartment. So another reason why we can't wait to get into our house.
Yeah.
So we can actually get that content up again. Am I missing anything?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, so we will have links to all of that into the show notes afterwards, but I really appreciate you guys joining me today to talk about what you've been up to.
We miss Ken a lot. Every time we come on, it's like he's not.
Hell, he goes and decides he wants to go spend time with his wife or something, out having fun. I don't understand. No, it's all good. Yeah. No, much appreciate you guys coming on. One of these days, we'll get everybody on the same airwaves so that we can all chat together. And I'm sure that would be loads of fun. But with that, we will see you guys again in the future. Hopefully I'll have reports after Whimsy to say what my experiences were and such on that. Gosh, that's going to be a crazy weekend for me personally, because I go from that to having to do some martial arts things to other stuff, so I don't even know if there'll be a show that weekend for my end. Ken will probably have to pull that one. We'll trade. But with that, as you guys all know, there's all the ways that you can follow Ken and I here at VtWProductions.com with ShowX. I mean, you can catch us on Twitter. You can catch us on social media with Facebook and things like that. You can go and jump into our Reddit subforum so you can chat about any of the episodes of the show, as well as ask us questions. You can email in at showx@VtWProductions.com for anything that we've talked about the show, anything you'd like us to catch and talk about in the future, as well as just to share with us a little bit of the things you've been doing that have been geek in your past week. We always love to hear from all of you. But with that, you've been listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com, and we are calling it as another good one for the day. So thank you all for tuning in.
Bye.
We will catch you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.